Thank you for the introduction, Samir, and welcome Vijoe, Nitin, and Mohit. In the interest of the time, I'll dive right into the questions. The first question is: how have global enterprises pivoted and navigated their AI and analytics agenda post COVID? What new winds of change will be witnessed at a strategic level in driving this AI agenda? Vijoy, would you like to start with this question?
Definitely. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think great question, Iqbal, right? What we are seeing at least is that I think that's what the common mood also in the market is that there's a huge boost in the investments in the analytics space. Because last 2 years completely changed the world order, if you think about it, right? The customer preferences, the spend patterns, their preferences with respect to shopping, everything has changed, right? Forget about all of this. A normal forecast won't work. A forecast that was being used for last 2 years, 3 years back, that won't work in today's scenario, right? We need to bring new variables. So what it means is we need to learn everything from scratch and build new solutions that is able to understand the customer behavior of 2022 or post COVID, right? That's one reason why you're seeing huge investments and huge emphasis on analytics. That's one thing. Last 2 years was a huge boost for digitization again, right? I work for a beverage company, AB InBev. Even for us, now 50% of our sales is through digital platforms. We introduced a platform called Bees, and that's driving 50% of our sales, right? Which means that again, a lot of investments will happen on adding intelligence on such platforms. And this is the case with most of the corporates and most of the business that we talk about, right? Another element is if you think about over the last 10 years, the emphasis was on building solutions, proving concepts, and giving analytics as a service, right? And what happens with that is you end up creating an army of people to sustain this, which is not sustainable at all, right? First of all, getting great resources challenge and retaining them is an even bigger challenge. So the huge emphasis now is on productization solutions. How will you create end-to-end platforms, products with consumable APIs or apps where consumption of insights becomes easy, right? That again is boosting the analytics needs and the investments and the emphasis on having new age skill sets, right? Even I would say that data science is no more the cutting edge space anymore, right? If you think about it, the demand is now pivoting towards productization experts, which means DevOps experts, software engineers, ML engineers, Python developers, Scrum masters, product owners, right? So we're talking about new skill sets that are required to cater to the new world, right? Yeah, I think definitely it's a great space, great time for the analytics fraternity, considering the impact, considering the investment that's happening in this space, and the growth that we are seeing in productization and building next gen solutions rather than building analytics as a service like we used to do a few years back.
True that, Vijay. So from CPG to let's talk about auto, right? Advanced auto. So Nitin, what would you like to add to this?
So I would say COVID is a blessing in disguise, right? The kind of digitization has happened in last 2 years. We haven't seen it in the last decade itself. And I want to call out two important things which has happened. One is that the customer engagement through the digital channels has increased significantly. Like as advanced auto parts, we sell a lot of parts through our stores. We have around 7,000 stores across United States and Canada. But during the COVID time, we have seen the surge through our e-com channel, which we never used to see. That went into the double digits. So that was a significant increase in the change which we were observing, and which also led to us to many other programs. We never thought that we will be delivering the products at home. Like if you see the FMCG space, right? You talk about Amazon, Flipkart, and other companies, right? They are sending the products to the house, but we never thought that we'll be delivering the car parts at home. But we started doing that. So that was a completely a change in the direction from the organization perspective. Today, we are very proud to say that we are delivering on the same day. We call it as a same day delivery. We have another channel through which we are doing it less than 3 hours. So that's a very different way, the way business has started changing. So that is all because of the COVID. The second thing which I want to talk about, which even Vijoy has mentioned about the change in the customer behavior. Since we started doing different kind of services, we started dealing with our consumers in a very different way. It has changed the consumer behavior in a very, very big way. And it is changing our models as well, right? Like the models which we have built in the past, it was based on the past data, the historical data, which is not good anymore. So what one thing should be very important in our AI strategy is that we should start bringing in the scenario planning better. I'll give you an example. Like as a auto parts company, we do get the data of the weather, right? Because it's very important. When it's very cold, there are certain things which will be selling. When it is too hot, there are other products which will be selling, right? So we never thought that we will be bringing in the data, like how many people are getting sick in a particular county, what is the kind of a vaccination is happening, are people doubly vaccinated or not. These are very important aspects when you are doing a prediction, because if you are just working on a siloed approach of the limited data sources which we had in the past, it's not going to work out. You will be getting the accuracy to only 60 to 70%. But if you really want to increase the prediction rate, I think we need to include many other data sources which we have not thought through. The other important thing which has happened in the last couple of years is that after COVID, we suddenly saw the Ukraine war. We never predicted it. And a retail company like us, we have seen the disruption in the whole supply chain. And that was not in our scenario, that how exactly we are going to deliver the product to our end consumers at the right point at the right time. So, what I'm trying to bring a point here is that now analytics is not just about the limited data sources which we have within the organization. We should start having a broader view, start thinking about some of those anomalies which are happening in the geopolitical scenario, also on the demographics of the world, and then start incorporating it into our models. That will actually help us to give better solutions for the future. So, that's my
Very,
take on that.
very well said, Nitin. I mean, we kind of forgot about Ukraine war in this question. I should have brought it up. So Mohit, these two companies were, with actual products, and of course, there have been a lot of changes that happened in the way, people are buying products. But PayPal has always been a digital company. So tell us, what has COVID changed when it comes to PayPal?
Yeah. So you're right, Iqbal. I think PayPal has always been digital, but even we were surprised by the amount of customers that took to digital. So I think the challenge on our side is there are more new customers who never have a history and have come on digital. So I think I agree to what Vijoe and Nitin says. You need to think alternate and figure out when you don't have the data history, how do you analyze that? I think we've talked a lot about customers. I would just add one more dimension to it. I think for our AI and analytics agenda and the scope, one of the biggest thing is talent. So one of the positive outcomes of post-COVID is the world has become remote, which means our employees need not be in a Bangalore, Hyderabad, or any big cities. They're all over the world. So this has actually created opportunities to hire the best of the AI and analytics talent across the globe, and that has certainly increased the scope of the work that can be done by being here but delivering globally.
Thank you for pointing that out. As a product company that I was part of, we were very lucky with COVID that way. We could hire talent from everywhere,
Yeah.
something that we were struggling with earlier. Thank you. So let's jump on to the next question. And this is an interesting one, right? All of you are very seasoned leaders, have worked in varieties of GCCs, and a couple of you have worked with independent service providers also, which had analytics CoEs servicing the clients. Uh, what I want to talk about is what are the new practices or mechanisms that you are witnessing or deploying yourself in creating and scaling the best of the breed AI and analytics CoEs? And how do they differ from the analytics series of the yesteryears? And Mohit, why don't you go first? Continue with the employee and other parts of it.
Sure. So I think if you look at it in terms of what has changed and what does it really take to scale, whether it's an AI COE or analytics COE to a scale, I believe there are three practices which really helps. The first one and the most important, I would say, is having a global operating model. I mean, I've worked in the past in the companies GCCs which have shared services model. Sometimes I feel that becomes a limiter because the skin in the game is limited. So you would often see we would build world-class solutions which are built in isolations, so adoption suffers. So I think one of the biggest change you have to do, all of us have to do, is create teams which have mandate to solve global problems. And with the post-COVID, the talent pool is spread across the world, so that is not a limiter anymore. So that, I would say, having a global operating model is the number one. I think second, and which is very very important, I've seen in PayPal how they have done successfully, is building a world class horizontal capabilities. And I would add that if we can co-locate them in India, that makes it even better. And let me elaborate what I mean by the horizontal capabilities. So, data science, AI capability, we always think about data scientists, getting the best in class data scientists, and having people who understand the domain. I think both of them are important, but it's very, very important to create an end to end ecosystem to deliver AI at scale. I'll give you some examples. So, while you have data scientists on one side and the domain expertise on the business, it's important to have parallel teams that are building, helping these teams to scale. One of them will be data platform. So you have a customer 360-degree view, a merchant 360-degree view, or whatever product you are working on, having a 360-degree view which is of offline and online, or real-time data feeding into you, which can be used by these teams to do modeling. You would need all the possible web intelligence, and I think we talked previously, more and more customer coming to digital, the importance of that web data is becoming more and more important. I think third, I would say, is having a set of people who are constantly creating the variables. We call it variable generator, but think about it as a library of thousands of pre-created variables. Because when you want to do modeling at scale, you just want to go there, look at them, leverage them, and see what works for you. I think as we build model, and we're talking about building it at a scale, one other thing that gets important is automation, because model keeps getting old and they need a refresh. If you start diverting your energy, the horsepower to refresh them, that will take away from building new stuff. So there are methods now to rapid model refresh. So you can keep refreshing your model at an automated way so that the focus of the teams are building the new models. And last but not the least, I would say, is what we call the decision strategy, the rules engine. Because the one part of AI is building the model, but you need deployment to those models. You would want to optimize those models and customize for the market, the geography. And so that's where this whole rule engines and optimization comes into play. And I think on top of it is putting a long-term research onto this. So I think some of these things in horizontal are big value add to grow analytics or AI at a scale. And third, I would say, which is an opportunity and it's the toughest one, is how do we take all the local innovation that's happening in our market and scale them for global markets? Because all of us are working for global teams and global companies. So in our world, for example, with countries like India, you have bandwidth challenge, and we are a digital company. So people came up here with an example of idea of having a checkout light, which works on a low bandwidth. It became so successful that this idea got exported to all of the world because there are challenges, similar challenges in other part of the world. This is just an example, but the idea is there is so much innovation happening in India. How can we take some of it and bring it to our GCC, the parent organization, and take it global?
Thank you, Mohit. That was amazing. A lot of stuff happening. Vijoy, what about you? I mean, AB InBev is a company that has grown a lot inorganically as well, a true multinational, right? A presence in a lot of different countries, different geographies. So, how are you dealing with this in AB InBev, especially a CoE, which is going to work across all these geographies and languages and
Yeah.
cultures?
No, again, I totally agree with all the points that Mohit already pointed out, right? Let me bring a few more dimensions to the same topic. So we are a 1,000 strong practice across the globe, right? We have a 400 strong team in India and 600 strong teams across the globe, right? So the biggest challenge for us, if you take at our situation, we are like a 5-year-old organization as a data science COE. The biggest challenge today we have is adaptation, right? When we start off, it's all about building cool stuff, right? POCs, getting highlighted in platforms, all of that. But at some point in time, the reality starts, right? What is the ROI you're getting from analytics, right? Because you're making huge investments in analytics. And ROI can only happen if adoption happens in the zones, right? So earlier investments in analytics was meant to be all data scientists and data science related professions, right? Data engineering or your UI UX developers, you name all of those, right? But nobody bothered to invest on analytics translators, for example, right? because business don't understand analytics. They need somebody to translate analytics for them. Nobody invested on change management experts, for example, because that again people didn't thought that that's a important skill set in this space. But what we are today doing is we are putting large investments on huge investments on translators, change management experts who are sitting in the zones, right? Who ensures adoption of these solutions. And in the last 2 years we are seeing huge improvement in the adoption of solutions that we're building. That's one thing. Second thing is about value creation as such. Sometimes what happens with data science is the numbers that the data science CEO is caught, and if you look at the overall growth of the organization or the revenue of the organization, there is no correlation, right? Because at one point in one space, data science CEO is claiming like a billion, 2 billion contribution towards the business, but the overall revenue of the business is still saying the same. There is something wrong. And we were quick to realize that, and we invested a lot of money. We invested a lot of money working with experts in the business, McKinsey's of the world, the MITs of the world, to create a value creation framework, right? That actually identifies what is the real value coming out of analytics. Because creating a framework or a model that actually kind of identifies the real value, that itself is complex. Think about anything in commercial. There's a pricing initiative, marketing initiative, there is a promo initiative, discount initiative, right? There are 100 new SKU introductions. There are 100 initiatives happening. How can you point out what is the contribution from pricing or discount? That itself requires very complex models to identify what is the contribution of each of these initiatives. But that was the right investments that we made over the last 2 years to create a value creation framework that really helps us identify what is the real value coming out of analytics. And today we only take value which can be traced to P&L as value from analytics. And what has happened with this, our projections reduced significantly. But today the numbers that we quote, they are credible numbers which everybody believes in and everybody signs off as real value to the business, right? Third thing is on funding. How to get funding for analytics, right? One way is always going and asking for CapEx every year. The second way is to make it self-funded, and that's what we are doing today. What we are agreed with the business is that 10% of the value creation above the business case has to be invested back in analytics, right? Because the numbers are credible and they can be traced to P&L, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. 10% is huge number, right? And
that's amazing. That's amazing. Self-funded analytics.
Self-funded analytics, and that's a model that we are going with. We always need seed funding when we are starting something new, but all the tenured spaces we don't need any more funding, right? Because it's self-funded. Because our value creation itself funds the engine, right? So I think these are three things I would definitely bring to this forum for.
Thank you, Vijoe. Nitin, what would you like to add to this? What changes or what things you're deploying differently in creating and scaling the best of breed AI and analytics CoE?
Sure. So Iqbal, I would say like I've worked with different kind of GCCs and I've seen different models. We have seen like teams which are centralized in nature. We have seen the federated CoEs. And personally, I feel that a better approach is the hybrid model where we have kind of a horizontal cutting across all the businesses, bringing in the enterprise view of the data, and also helping some of the business functions where they do not have that kind of analytics capability. And this is something which we are attempting in advanced auto parts. So example, like we have a pricing analytics team which is very focused on the pricing area, but there are teams in supply chain or I would say in finance side, they don't have those kind of capabilities. So that's where we come into the picture. We are helping them into building their models as well as bringing in that enterprise view of the data. So that's really working out very well for us. The second thing I feel which is changed from the yesteryears, right? Like 10 years back, I think it was very different vis-a-vis the way we are operating today. One thing which has changed in India is that a very good startup ecosystem has come up, especially in last 5 to 6 years in the space of AI and analytics. And we are partnering with some of the incubators here in Hyderabad and Bangalore, which is helping us to reach out to some of the real good companies or the startups who have built some of their models, which are exclusive and they're getting it patented. So I'll give you an example of one where we are having a advanced level of discussion. They built a product which is called as a prognostics kit. It's as I said, like we are the we basically sell the auto parts, right? So, and we have 7,000 stores. And today, if you ask me, like when you go to a garage, if a part is not working, they use a diagnostic kit. It will tell you what part is not working, but there's nothing called as which will tell you which part has what percentage of wear and tear. So this one company has created a kind of a model, and they are working very closely with the Tatas and Mahindras of the world in India. And the amount of data they have churned through, they have created a model which can actually predict what all things are going to be failing in the near future. In fact, they can give you a report of the entire IC engines which are OBD2 compliant, and they will tell you 30% of this part has been deteriorated. This is the 70% of the wear and tear. Now, imagine what we can do over here with this kind of information in our hand. We can do a personalized marketing for those customers, right? We just need to get the data for the car, and this particular thing, they have created a dongle which actually can be fitted in the OBD2 compliant cars, which are 20-25 years old, and you can continuously monitor the car thing on the cloud. We are not capturing the geolocations because that's a privacy thing, but the car information is every minute we are capturing it, right? So imagine we will know when there which part is going to be failing, and based on that we will go ahead and do the marketing, right? We'll send those coupons to them that this is the time when you should come back to the garage. And we have partners with our garages. We have two kind of customer. We have the DIY, and we sell it to a large garages. So that's the kind of operating model. Now we are thinking, how can we have a better partnership with our garages as well as bring in the customers in the play, so that we have a loyal customer. We are also thinking how the loyalty piece of that thing can be added to this particular stuff,
Thanks.
right?
Thank you, Nitin. In the interest of the time, I'm going to jump to the next question because I don't want to miss
Sure.
that one out. And Nitin, why don't you continue answering that itself, kind of because it's linked. So you just talked about, this partnership with startups that is giving you some unique solutions. So my question is that how the AI analytics leaders in GCCs blend business strategy and AI analytics for value creation and business transformation.
Sure.
What barriers might be there in blending the two, and how are you planning to overcome them?
Sure. So I think Mohit and Vijay both have mentioned about the challenge of the adoption of the AI, right? So uh, we have seen that in the past, like AI CoEs are built more like a R&D teams. They feel that they are going to solve all the world's problem, but when they go back to the business, actually it's not happening. Many of the cool stuff is not going into the production environment, right? So that's what at least I have seen personally. We feel so proud that we have built these capabilities, but no one is actually engaging with us in or investing into that. So that's the number one problem which I see. And when I come to India perspective or the GCC perspective, we have two other problems. One is the time zone difference which we have, which keeps our folks away from the business. So that's another challenge which we have. The other thing which I've observed, at least the GCCs where I have worked in the past, people in the middle management and the junior people, they think in India team is more like an offshore delivery center, right? So that's another mindset which actually is very very a big barrier for any of the COEs, I would say. So what we have done, at least with Advanced Auto Parts, so we started this center just 2.5 years back, and we all came from other GCCs where we have seen these kind of problems. So we did something different over here. So in advance, we started building the business teams also in India. So today, I'm very proud to say that we have the finance team over here. We have the pricing team sits in India. We have the marketing team. we have the merchandising team, we have the accounting team, and we are getting supply chain and other business teams also coming over here. So one of the barrier which was there, that how can we engage better with the business, I think we are getting business closer to us. I think Mohit did mention about the co-location, right? So that was there in our mind, and that is actually helping us to get a better engagement with the business. And this is also leading to another thing. Now we are also taking the accountability of certain work, which means we are the owners of those programs. It's not that someone in US or any other country sitting and leading those programs. So we are bringing those aspects as well. So that's one part of it. The second is that how can we engage business better is we need to include business in our teams. So what we have started is that within our agile teams, we have a role called product owner and product manager, and those are the roles being filled by the business folks. So when we have this conversation about any AI project, we are basically telling them that, see, we need an expert from you. So they are basically partnering us from the day one. So their skin is in the game till we actually implement. So any
That,
kind of changes which are coming, we are able to incorporate that. So that's how
that,
we are basically overcoming.
that's great. Mohit, what would you like to add to this?
I think Nitin covered pretty much. I'll just say two things. In terms of barrier, definitely, a lot of times the business that we are into doing in India, we might not have that business sitting in India. So sometimes domain depth is missing. So I think as a leader, AI analytics leader, it's imperative on us to make sure that domain knowledge and the depth comes to them. So the point here is whatever is burning for the business, people are building solutions for that sitting here, because technically solutions are much superior. Adoption lacks because it's not grounded on the realities of the what business wants immediately. And second is, how do you, I think Vijoy touched upon this whole connection to the PNL. So I agree to that. So one of the things that we try to do is we have a very stringent H1, H2 planning where the stakeholder is sitting, and we take shared goals and then we put KPIs on that. So if we do that very systemically upfront, what is the team going to work on H1 and what will be the KPIs for success? I think we can get over most of those barriers.
Thank you, Mohit. So, Vijay, you talked about adoption issues, and both the other panelists refer to some of the points that you made. Would you like to add something to this question as well? How are you
Just
planning to overcome these barriers?
yeah, just keep it short, right? I think the most important role for a data science leader in any organization is data science evangelization. 50% of my time is on that. I work with the CTOs, CIOs of the business, the leaders in the zones, to educate them what analytics could do for them, right? Because think about a professional who has worked 20 years in a domain. Somebody coming and challenging and saying that, you know what, there is a better way of solving your problem statements, right? It may not go well. So I see a data science leaders key responsibility being evangelization of analytics, right? How will you create passionate owners in the business who actually fight for this cause, right? So I think that's one of the key things I would add in the interest of time for sure.
Thank you so much, Vijay. I had a very great conversation. I really enjoyed this meeting. I would just take 1 minute to summarize what I learned, and if you guys still want to add something, go ahead. So one thing that I learned from this conversation is that COVID definitely has been a disruptor, and it has forced companies to digitize more. I mean, even PayPal, that's a digital company, felt that a lot more people are opting the digital way. And who had heard about that auto parts will be delivered home, right? So this means that the companies have to use AI and analytics on existing data to support this digitization efforts. And more digitization automatically means more data, which in turn further augments the AI agenda. So good times for us, right? All the AI and analytics practitioners. I also heard that adoption continues to be the challenge. I think this is not new. All of us who have been in this industry for more than 2 decades know that this is something we have to continuously work on. But at the same time, what I heard from our panelists, that all of them are employing very new and unique approaches to make this a non-issue, right? And that approach may differ based on the kind of company you are, how well spread out you are, what kind of product you sell. But it is very interesting to see that it is kind to become a non-issue over time. And add to it the fact that our ecosystem is everything, right? Rich academia, startups, we're partnering with them now for unique solution, GCCs, and independent service providers, I think we are poised perfectly to add a significant and long lasting value to our respective businesses and clients. Thank you once again for a wonderful conversation, and let's catch up for tea after this.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks a
everyone.
lot. Thanks, Iqbal. Great comparing.
Bye bye.
Bye.